Yeah, and so one thing that I was thinking about as you were talking about, you know, being an independent uh thinker in as part of a herd or asking questions, being curious. There comes the idea of commitment as well. As part of a herd, there's commitment or loyalty, and there's so many different examples of that in society that where that idea is breaking down to the detriment of society. But at the same time, think about like if somebody's in a commitment to a group and that group values loyalty, but then that person is no longer in alignment with the values of the group, then those virtues or values kind of are in conflict, right? It's being an independent thinker, but then having commitment and loyalty to the group. What's the balance there?
You
Well,
are loyal to the group or the idea of the group. Of course, there is a sense of loyalty to the individual. Okay, but in my opinion, right, it is the ideal or the ideology that you're being loyal to, or whatever that person who's your leader then is an individual. What are his precepts, or what are
Mhm.
his foundations and his uh, doctrines and so forth. So uh, if that person, that the leader of a group, so we're talking individual, group, etc.,
Mhm.
uh, but starting with the individual who's the leader, uh, then that person is also must be held accountable to the rules, the doctrines, the things, whatever the code, or uh, whatever is
The
that the group,
values, whatever.
yeah, the
Yeah.
values that the group has agreed on. Okay, so if the individual who's a leader is not doing that, then it is the responsibility of the members of the group to stand up against those who are not abiding by those precepts and ethos that the group has agreed on. So by them doing that is not actually being disloyal,
Hmm.
but it is their loyalty that to the idea, to the group, that 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 motivates them to take that action. Now, when you do that, there is a possibility that you'll suffer, okay, negative consequences if the leader, if you don't have the power to uh, to win your argument, and if the leader or the majority of the group finds you wrong in the wrong, then you're going to suffer the consequences of it. So, um, I think we're seeing this play out, right, with what's happening in Canada right now, right, with the truckers, with the people fighting for their freedom, to stand up against the mandates that are moving toward totalitarian regime um, of Trudeau, and it's uh, it's unreasonable, and they've had enough, and they're standing up for that. Okay, and in doing that, they're suffering the consequences. And in the same time, right? What is he saying? Trudeau's saying that they are terrorists and they are Nazis, or they're calling all these kinds of names, right? But if that is a democratic state, then we have to go ahead and uh, appreciate the actions of the people who are the everyday average, middle to low class people who are rising up for their individual rights. So that is completely in line with democracy. Okay, um, and they are not doing anything of any violent or terrorist act. BLM did all kinds of crazy things that you can't even imagine, but they weren't doing that in over there. That's a civil disobedience. Okay,
Peaceful,
um,
peaceful,
excuse me.
dis-
Yeah,
peaceful civil disobedience.
And that is the entire foundation of democracy, right? So they're exercising their democratic rights, and in my opinion, I mean, they're I'm for them 100%. Okay, but in doing that, what's happening? They're suffering the consequences, right? The state has risen against them, right, and called an emergency and doing all kinds of negative things, um, and so those people are suffering the consequences of a democratic state uh, who are exercising their rights. Okay, um, but in doing that, they are being punished because of the ruling body. Okay, um, and it's unfortunate, but yeah, to me, they are showing loyalty to their country.
Hmm.
So that's not being, in my opinion, disloyal.